In a recent Australian parliamentary debate, Member of Parliament Kat McNamara was overcome with emotion, breaking down in tears as she spoke about the genocide in Gaza.
Just a forewarning that my adjournment today will be heavy in nature and may be upsetting for some people to hear. But I do feel that with my platform comes enormous responsibility to speak out for those voices who are often muted. Sorry, Jesus. Okay. After our epic night on Tuesday, I got home at 2 a.m. Unable to sleep, I jumped online onto Instagram to be confronted with the images of dead and dying children. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I know this is unprofessional. I am just a normal person, not a career politician. From the latest indiscriminate Israeli bombing of civilians in Gaza. It was such a wrenching feeling to have been so swallowed up in an incredibly intense night here with all the pettiness and hostility and outright lies that happen in this chamber, which can feel like the whole world, for that to then be shattered by being instantly transported into the refugee tents of families in Gaza. And as I lay in bed, my 15-month-old baby lay sleeping peacefully next to me. I saw images of little Palestinian babies, mutilated, their feet poking out of the rubble. On Tuesday night, Israel broke the ceasefire and spent the night bombing refugee tent encampments in civilian areas. The body of the first dead baby had a little pink jumpsuit on with flowers. Sorry, it's important that I say this. I imagined the mother picking that outfit out for her baby when she was pregnant, full of hope for her child's future. I saw men weeping over the wrapped up bodies of children. It is something that the brain cannot understand when you first see it. The small cloth wrapped bundles that are children's bodies. I saw a video of a little boy about 6 years old, so traumatized by witnessing the death of his entire family that he sat directly facing a bloody hospital wall, just staring blankly and quietly rocking. And it's not just the bombing of civilian areas that are killing these children. I have seen and heard testimony of doctors. And for those that may want to dismiss the testimony of Palestinian healthcare workers, I've heard this from foreign aid doctors there about treating children with multiple bullet wounds from Israeli snipers. No sniper accidentally shoots a child twice. I have seen a video of a grandmother running through a town square in Gaza, holding up a white flag in one hand, whilst holding the hand of her 10-year-old grandson in the other, to be shot dead by an Israeli sniper. The boy confused, looking down at his dead grandmother, unsure where to run. On Tuesday night, I watched an Australian doctor from Perth. His name is Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, who had just arrived in Gaza, speak to the camera as he lay exhausted on the floor of the barely working hospital. This is some of what he said. Quote, "We worked all through the night. We haven't stopped. The bombing hasn't stopped. We've run out of all painkillers. We can't sedate anyone. When we intubate people, they wake up and they're choking because we have no sedation. There are 7 girls getting their legs amputated with no anesthesia. The bombing is still going on. The room is still shaking." And finally, I just want to say to the people of Gaza and the Palestinians, I am listening and hearing, and every single day my heart breaks for you, and there are no words. There are no words, and every day my heart is with the parents in Palestine.
This isn't the first time an Australian MP has courageously spoken to support Palestinians. A few months ago, Australian MP Max Chandler Mather strongly criticized the Australian Parliament for refusing to recognize the state of Palestine and failing to impose sanctions on Israel for its actions in Gaza.
Israel kills Palestinian men, women and children, and then they look around the world and they don't receive a single sanction to stop. They are emboldened and they keep acting. I mean, this motion is a joke. It is a joke as part of a peace process. What peace process? Israel is carrying out a genocide. Israel is carrying out a genocide in Gaza. It's not a peace process. Why is it that 146 countries could find it within their hearts to recognise Palestine right now? Why is it that the Australian government refuses? And how is it that when a Labor senator, Senator Payman, who had the principles and the courage to cross the floor to vote with the Greens to immediately recognise Palestine, why is it that Senator Payman faced more sanctions than Labor has dished out against Israel? What do you all do? What does this Labor government do? They can recognise Israel, but they can't immediately recognise Palestine. You can't end Tuwain's arms trade. You can't cancel the Elbit Systems contract. You can't sanction Israel. And you should all be deeply, deeply ashamed.
Australian MP Zali Steggall was even heckled while trying to oppose the increased vetting of Palestinians seeking to enter Australia.
It's extremely concerning to see the opposition turn up today with this suspension of standing orders and the words and the rhetoric that we're hearing here. It goes directly against the advice when it comes to ASIO and the concern around the polarisation in our communities and that whipping up a sense of fear and an inference that, for example, our services and systems are not working. And so what I'd like to share is the human story, the real story about some of the people we're talking about, the lives they're talking. And I would ask you to be silent. I have the floor.
Order.
I would ask you to be silent. In 2020, I met a man called Mohammed at the North Stain Surf Life Saving Club. He had come to Australia under a visa approved by the Morrison government, under the same systems. He came to participate in a surf life saving skills program. He wanted to give the children of Gaza an opportunity to learn water safety, to not drown, to have something positive to have on weekends. They loved that program. They attended. Unfortunately, after the events of October, horrendous events of October, that program of course ended. The bombing started. Many people that participated in that program have died. Many of the children have died. These are normal families. These are families that you are seeking to paint that somehow they are all terrorists, that they should all be mistrusted and not worthy, that they are not worthy of humanitarian aid.
Order. The Leader of the Opposition will cease interjecting.
We heard you in silence. You can hear me in silence.
Order.
Stop being racist.
Leader of the Opposition.
Senator Faruqi also stood in solidarity with the Palestinians, calling for an immediate ceasefire.
The coalition is morally bankrupt when it comes to Palestine, and Labour has shown itself to be heartless, gutless cowards. You are watching the massacre of thousands of Palestinians by Israel, and you are not condemning Israel. You refuse to call for an immediate ceasefire. Well, we are not going to sit here and watch you pat yourselves on the back for doing nothing. Weasel words are not going to stop war crimes. Today, we bring the people's protest into Parliament. Free, free Palestine!
Thank you, Senator Faruqi.
In another glaring example of hypocrisy by the Labor Party, Australian Senator Payman was compelled to resign after defying her party to join the Greens in supporting a motion urging the Senate to recognise Palestinian statehood.
Australian Senator Fatima Payman has quit the governing Labor Party after being suspended for supporting a motion on recognising Palestine. Last week, Payman defied her party to side with the Greens on a motion urging the Senate to recognise Palestinian statehood. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese suspended her on Sunday. Payman says she's going to retain her seat for Western Australia as an independent. Well, Danielle Robertson's joining us now from Sydney. For those of us who hadn't been following this story closely, give us some context. How did we get here?
Yeah, well, Fatima Payman's resignation did cause fierce debate in the Australian Senate, a new push by Muslim groups across the country to remove Labor from power, and has reignited debate across the country about Australia's position on the war in Gaza. This began about a week ago when Senator Payman became the first Labor member in about 18 years to cross the floor or defy the party by voting in favour of a Greens motion of Palestinian state. Senator Payman crossing the floor in favour of the Greens motion, leading to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese suspending her indefinitely. Senator Payman then says she was intimidated by some members, and she also then led to this point where today she announced her resignation. And in her speech, she was quite emotional. She was on the verge of tears, where she said that this was one of the most difficult decisions of her life, but ultimately said that her principles no longer align with Labor. And she also called out the government for what she called the greatest injustice of our time.
40,000 people have been killed, massacred brutally. And for us to be in a privileged position in a nation that champions human rights, in a nation where people have big dreams of seeing a free world or advocating for freedom, equality, and justice, for us to just sit back and not do what we can as a middle power that's in the best interest of our nation, but also to establish a independent national foreign policy that isn't bound to another nation, for us to make our own decisions. We had so many opportunities for us to do more than we have, and I think I had to draw a line when it was as simple as, here is a clear mandate. The moral stance for this situation was very simple: recognize the state of Palestine.
Australian Senator Lydia Thorpe also spoke up for Palestinians during a Senate session, criticizing how governments around the world have allowed Israel to get away with apartheid.
Governments across the world, in an attempt to address anti-Semitism and somehow redress the horrors of the Holocaust, are allowing Israel to get away with apartheid, ethnic cleansing, detention of children, torture, restriction of movement and other freedoms, and the illegal occupation of land. After every genocide, the world cries out, never again. And yet here you see another attempted genocide unfold right in front of your eyes. And you don't just watch on quietly, but actively supporting the oppressor. We will not allow you to get away with that. While I am by all means condemning the attacks by Hamas on the Israeli people, I am also condemning the violence Israel is and has been inflicting on Palestinians since 1948. And I stand with the Palestinian people for their right to self-determination. As long as we allow for the continued oppression of Palestinians and place higher value on the lives and right to self-determination of some over others, we will not see peace. In the Middle East, there cannot be peace without justice, and there cannot be healing without justice.
We hope and pray that more Australian politicians, along with leaders from around the world, begin to condemn the Israeli genocide in Gaza and stand up for the rights of Palestinians. More importantly, we call for real action to end the genocide and recognize Palestinian statehood, rather than merely offering words of condemnation.